You are 19 years old, and you have already written your death poem. It sits folded in your breast pocket, next to a photograph of your mother. In 6 hours, you will fly a plane loaded with explosives directly into an American warship, and you will not come back. You do not know this yet. Right now, you are just a boy standing on an airfield in Kyushu, listening to the sound of your own heartbeat over the wind. This is the story of how a farmer's son becomes a human weapon, not through hatred, but through the quiet, patient machinery of a nation that has run out of other options. Stay until the end, because the last 6 hours of this story are not what you expect. Stage 1. The Farmer's Son. You grow up in a small village in Kagoshima Prefecture, one of 5 children. Your father grows rice. Your hands are callous from the paddies before you are 10. School begins each morning with a bow toward the emperor's portrait and a recitation of the imperial rescript on education, obligation, loyalty, the nation as family. You are taught that Japan is a divine land, that the emperor is a living god, and that dying for him is not a tragedy but an honor few are worthy of. You do not question this any more than you question gravity. It is simply the shape of the world. By 1937, the newspapers are full of victories in China. Your older cousin enlists and comes home in a photograph, not a coffin, a hero, framed on his mother's wall. You are 14. You want, more than anything, to matter that much to someone. Stage 2. The Volunteer. By the time you are old enough to notice, the world is already at war. It began years earlier and an ocean away, when Germany invaded Poland in 1939 and dragged Europe into a conflict that keeps growing. Japan has been fighting its own war in China since before you were born, and by 1940, its military leaders are eyeing the resource-rich colonies of Southeast Asia, resources it needs and the West controls. Negotiations with the United States collapse, and neither side will back down. On the 7th of December 1941, Japanese aircraft launch a surprise strike on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor, crippling the Pacific Fleet in a single morning and pulling the United States, fully and furiously, into the war. Within days, the Pacific becomes its own battlefield. One your generation, not your father's, will be asked to fight. By 1943, the war has changed shape. The newspapers still print victories, but the ships coming into port carry more wounded than triumphant. Conscription age drops. Recruiters visit your school, and they do not ask for volunteers. They ask for the willing. And in a room where every teacher and every friend is watching, there is no real difference. You write yes on the form. Your father says nothing when you tell him. Your mother makes your favorite meal that night and does not eat any of it herself. You board a train for pilot training with 40 boys from your prefecture. 12 of you will be alive in 2 years. You do not know which 12. Neither does anyone else. Stage 3. The Cadet. Training is short because Japan is running out of both planes and time. You learn to fly in months what peacetime pilots learned in years. Fuel is rationed so tightly that some cadets complete their entire training with fewer than 30 hours in the air, barely enough to take off, turn, and land, let alone survive real combat. Your instructors are kind to you in a way that unsettles you before you understand why. You are not being trained to dogfight. You are being trained to hold a heading. In October 1944, after the Battle of Leyte Gulf leaves the Imperial Navy with too few ships and too few experienced pilots to contest American air superiority any other way, Vice Admiral Takijiro Onishi authorizes the first organized Kamikaze, Divine Wind, special attack units. The idea spreads from officers' meetings to your barracks within a week. A single untrained pilot and a single obsolete plane can sink a warship, if the plane itself is the weapon. You are asked, again, to volunteer. This time the paper has a box for eagerly willing, and blank space for unwilling that no one in your barracks ever uses. Stage 4. The Chosen. You are selected. There is no ceremony for this, only a list read aloud, your name among 24 others. That night you write a letter to your parents. You are not permitted to say when or where. You write instead about the color of the sky that morning, and you hope they understand what you mean by it. You are given a white cloth headband, a ceremonial cup of sake, and, if you are fortunate, a few days before your mission. Some pilots receive only hours. You spend yours writing your death poem, a short verse in the tradition of samurai facing their end, meant to capture your spirit in a handful of syllables for whoever finds it after. You are told your death will save your family, your village, your emperor from invasion. You choose to believe this, because the alternative, that it will change almost nothing, is not something a 19-year-old about to die can be expected to carry. Stage 5, the last night. The night before, some pilots drink. Some write dozens of letters. Some simply sit outside and look at the stars, because it is the last time they will be allowed to. You are told a story, repeated in nearly every unit, that a superior officer, watching young men in their final hours, breaks his own composure and quietly serves them tea himself, an act unheard of in Japan's rigid military hierarchy, because rank stops mattering, briefly, at the edge of the world. You do not sleep much. You think about the rice paddies, your mother's cooking, a girl in your village you never told anything to. You wonder if the plane will hold together long enough to matter. Stage 6, the flight. Dawn. You are handed your death poem's twin, a copy kept for your family, and a small flask. Ground crew salute you like you are already a memorial. Your plane is a Zero, stripped of nearly everything but a 250-kilogram bomb bolted to its frame. It was never built to come back, and neither, today, are you. You take off in formation with 4 other pilots. 2 turn back with engine trouble, a common, almost expected failure, and no shame attaches to it. You do not turn back. Below you, the ocean is the flattest, calmest blue you have ever seen. You think, distantly, that it is a strange thing to notice. Stage 7, the target. You find the fleet before it finds you. Anti-aircraft fire fills the sky in front of you. Data from the war's final years shows the vast majority of kamikaze aircraft were shot down before ever reaching a ship. The odds against you far worse than anyone in your barracks like to say aloud. You do not know if you are one of the few pilots whose plane will actually connect. You only know the ship ahead of you is close enough now to see individual sailors on its deck. Close enough that this stops being strategy and starts being simply the last few seconds of your life. You think of the sky's color that morning. You think of your mother not eating dinner. You do not think of the emperor at all. Of the roughly 3,800 Japanese pilots who flew kamikaze missions, most were teenagers or in their early 20s, university students and farmers' sons, not fanatics, mostly boys who had simply run out of paths that didn't end here. Historians still debate how many genuinely believed in the mission, and how many simply could not find a way to refuse it. The truth, from surviving letters, seems to be both at once, in the same young men, on the same morning. The ships they targeted mostly survived. The war ended anyway, 11 months after the program began. In a way, no sacrifice on that airfield changed. What lasted wasn't the strategy. It was the letters, hundreds of them, still read today, written by boys trying to describe a sky they'd never see age into evening. Subscribe for the next POV. The man who almost crippled the biggest empire the world has ever seen.